There's a moment that comes for almost every man at least once in his life, and it usually arrives quietly, late at night, after the bills come in and the calls aren't being returned and the plan you had a year ago has fallen apart on you. And in that moment, a thought shows up that you'd never say out loud to anyone. Maybe I should take that job, the warehouse one. The one stacking boxes for 10 euros an hour, the one I would have laughed at when things were going well. And almost every man in that exact second makes the same mistake. He pushes the thought away. He tells himself he's better than that. He's worked too hard. He didn't go to school for that. He has a reputation to think about. And he closes the laptop and goes to bed and waits another week. And then another. And he tells himself something will come. And it doesn't. And by the time he reconsiders, he's already lost the only thing that was ever going to save him, the willingness to do whatever it took. I want to tell you something about myself because I think you need to hear it from another man who's actually been in that exact spot. Not too long ago, I was looking at warehouse jobs. Manual work, stuff I hadn't done in years. The kind of job where you're on your feet for 10 hours, you come home aching, and you make in a week what some guys make in an afternoon. And I'm not going to lie to you, there was a part of me that didn't want to look at those listings. There was a voice telling me, I'm above this. I've worked on real things. I've built real skills. I'm not the warehouse guy anymore. But there was another voice, a quieter one, a more honest one, and that one said, if you have to do it, you have to do it. And I realized in that moment that the difference between men who make it through hard seasons and men who don't has almost nothing to do with talent or skills or connections. It has everything to do with whether they can humble themselves when the situation actually calls for it. There's a thing most men get wrong about themselves, and it's the reason a lot of guys you grew up with are now stuck in places they swore they'd never end up. They think they're going to be beaten by life, by the economy, by bad luck, by circumstances they couldn't control. And so they brace themselves for that fight. But that's not what actually takes most men down. What takes men down is their own ego. The story they've built about who they are, the image they've sold their friends, their family, their woman, the version of themselves they've been polishing in the mirror for the last 5 years. And when life shows up and asks them to put that image down, even for a second, even just to get through a rough patch, they can't do it. They'd rather sink with the image intact than survive without it. Think about that for a second, because it's one of the most masculine traps that exists. You know, guys, this is true for. The guy with a degree who refuses to drive for a delivery app even though it would cover his rent next month. The guy who used to be in management and won't take a job in retail because of what it would say about him. The guy who'd rather borrow money from his parents for the 3rd time than apply for a job he considers beneath him. These men aren't broken because they ran out of options. They're broken because their ego ran out of room. And the worst part is, the longer they refuse to step down even a little, the further down they actually fall. Because rent doesn't care about your image. Your fridge doesn't care what your business card used to say. Here's something I want you to really sit with. The phrase, I'm above that, is one of the most dangerous things a man can ever say to himself. And most men say it dozens of times before they realize what it's been costing them. Because what that phrase really means, when you strip away the polish and look at it directly, is this: I'd rather not eat than risk what people think of me. I'd rather not pay my rent than risk what I think of myself. I'd rather lose the woman, the apartment, the trip, the ring, the entire life I've built than do work that doesn't match the picture I have in my head. And I'm not telling you this because I think there's something wrong with having standards. There isn't. You should aim high. You should build skills that pay you what you're worth. You should refuse to be exploited or underpaid for what you can actually do. All of that is true. But there's a difference between standards and pride, and most men never learn it. Standards say, I'm not going to settle for this long term. Pride says, I'm not even going to touch this short term, even if everything around me is falling apart. Standards build you. Pride buries you. And by the time a man can finally tell the difference, he's usually already in too deep to climb out cleanly. So I want you to ask yourself something right now. What's a job you'd never take? Picture it. Get specific. The cleaning job. The night shift at a gas station. Helping someone move furniture for cash on a Saturday. Whatever it is for you. Now ask yourself why. And if the honest answer is, because I'm better than that, I want you to know that's not strength talking. That's the exact voice that's going to walk you off a cliff if you don't learn to catch it. Because the man who has a job he's above is also the man who's one bad month away from being broke and bitter at the same time. Now I want to flip this for you, because the whole point isn't just to humble yourself for the sake of humility. The real point is that the men who can take the step down are also, almost without exception, the men who eventually climb the highest. And once you understand why, you'll never look at this the same way again. The man who's willing to do any work has something most men don't have. He has options at all times. He can never truly be broken because the floor never disappears under him. He can lose the job, lose the company, lose the contract, lose the dream. And within a week, he can pay his rent because he'll go do whatever needs doing. And that gives him a kind of strength that no amount of confidence can fake. It's structural. It's underneath everything else he does. The men with the biggest wins are almost always the ones who refused to be too good for anything. Look at any guy you actually respect. The real kind, not the LinkedIn kind. The ones who built something real almost always have a story about a time they took a job that everyone around them thought was beneath them. They worked the warehouse. They drove the truck. They did the night shift. They cleaned the office. And they did it without telling themselves a long story about how unfair the world was. Because they understood something most men never understand. The work itself was never the point. The point was staying alive long enough to keep building and not destroying yourself with pride on the way through. If you can do that, if you can sit at a job you'd never put on your social media for 3 months while you build the next thing on the side, you become almost impossible to break. That's when life actually starts to open up for you, not when you finally get the lucky break. When you become the kind of man who doesn't need one. So here's what I want you to take from this. The next time you're sitting somewhere late at night and you feel that quiet voice telling you that maybe you should take the job you think you're above, I want you to listen to that voice. Don't push it away. Don't tell yourself a story about who you're supposed to be. Just look at the situation honestly and ask, is this what I need to do right now to keep moving forward? Because the man who can humble himself in a hard season is the same man who walks out of it stronger than everyone around him. And the man who can't, the man who'd rather sink with his image intact than swim with it dented, that man becomes a story other men tell each other quietly years later. Yeah, he was talented. He just couldn't get out of his own way. Don't be that story. If this one hit you somewhere real, do me a favor and hit subscribe. There are more videos on this channel that get into the stuff men don't usually talk about with each other, the real things underneath the surface. Go watch another one. And before you close this video, I want you to ask yourself one question, just once, honestly. What job am I telling myself I'm above? Because the answer might be the exact thing that saves you.